Esteemed candidates, your question in English, and after that my colleague here, Fatima, will translate in French. Translating Africa's natural wealth into continental prosperity. Africa has everything it needs to feed her people, educate her children, and take care of her health. Yet, the reality defies this. How will you turn the continent's resource wealth into tangible benefits, reducing debt, ensuring sustainable financing for the African Union, and enabling Africa to control its destiny economically? Also, how will you ensure that the African Continental Free Trade Area achieves its goals?
Excellences, messieurs les candidats.
Candidates, the question in French.
À tout ce dont elle a besoin pour nourrir sa population, éduquer ses enfants et prendre soin de leur santé. Mais la réalité défie cela. Comment allez-vous transformer la richesse en ressources du continent en avantages tangibles, réduire la dette, assurer un financement durable pour l'Union africaine et permettre à l'Afrique de contrôler son destin économique? En outre, comment allez-vous garantir que la zone de libre-échange continentale africaine atteigne ses objectifs? Et on commence avec le premier candidat de Madagascar. Excellence, vous avez 4 minutes pour y répondre.
This question talks about the hopes. And the first hope is that is contained in Agenda 2063, and we are going to just try and respond to this question. Perhaps not answer it completely, because you can't answer it in just 4 minutes. You can't show academically what it is that we can do in order to respond to this aspiration. So aspiration 1 of Agenda 2063 is as follows: a prosperous Africa based on inclusive growth and sustainable development. Your question is huge. How can a chairperson of the African Union Commission, with a very clear terms of responsibility, about 26 of those, and first of all, he or she has to demonstrate leadership characteristics, has to have administrative capacity, has to know protocol, has to be diplomatic. How can such a chairperson respond to such a huge question? I am an economist. I am a finance person by training. I do have some ideas to share. First of all, I can emphasize the importance of continuing to develop the economy at the continental level. You did mention our joint initiative about developing trade through, in theory, liberalization of trade, liberalization of the circulation of persons throughout our continent. In theory, I say trade can effectively become a source of economic dynamism. I think I understand that we're at about 12.6% of commercial trade between African countries. This is very low. For a continent such as Europe, a continent such as America, they go up to more than 50%. So what we need to do is to continue to continue with the efforts that we're doing. There's already a secretariat, the ICFTA. A secretariat, the ICFTA is just a geographical. It's zone. It is the geographical zone. We haven't yet attained this free circulation of trade, but if we manage to ensure that a free trade can happen, and can happen very quickly, it is very possible that we shall triple our performance in economic development. I am a farmer. I have a fish and chickens, and at a very small scale, and I support young farmers. And it's very difficult to pretend that one can have a good quality and one can sell the products to the neighbors. People are not able to really exhaust what is available in the market. But free trade is that. It is to learn how to master virtuous capitalism. Where do you find money, and what am I going to do to find the money? I think we need to start modestly. We need to start at the level of the local development, so that slowly by slowly, with support from the government and of course the support of the African Union, we shall then at the end ensure that all of the citizens, young, medium-aged, and especially women, can have the opportunity of participating in this large continental market. Thank you very much, Your Excellency.
You, Excellency Raila Odinga, first for your answer. 4 minutes, sir.
Thank you. Africa is, of course, the least developed continent by comparison. Look at economic statistics. But this is because there are historical reasons why Africa is where it is today. And we say that Africa does not need to remain here. We need to develop Africa. There are several factors which work against Africa. For example, the international financial infrastructure has worked very much against Africa, because African countries have been made to borrow money at a very high rate of interest compared to other countries of the same status as the African countries. So we need to address the issue of rearranging the international financial infrastructure. That is, I think, one of the major starting points. Now, Africa is the richest continent on the planet Earth in terms of raw materials. But it's a paradox that Africa also is the poorest in terms of living conditions. We say that we need not remain for perpetually the source of raw materials for industrial west or east. That we need to do value addition to raw materials which are coming out of Africa before we export them. And then we've also said that Africa needs to trade more with itself. There's big potential. The African Development Bank today says that 7 out of the 20 fastest growing economies in this year are going to be African countries. They're much higher than Europe. We're only competing with Asia. So it is important that Africa enhances the trade with itself. The inter-African trade today stands at just mere 15%. Now we have the African Free Trade Area organization that was launched now 3 years ago, but not much has been achieved. Some of the reasons are issues that are actually solvable. The non-tariff barriers to trade that have been imposed by respective African countries. Things like standards, which are different from one country to the other country, making it difficult for goods to move freely across the borders. Then modalities of payment. And then there's the other issue of infrastructure. I worked for 5 years as the African Union High Representative on Infrastructure Development. And here is another problem, because goods cannot move freely because of lack of adequate infrastructure within the continent. Kenya exported tea to Ghana, and it took 3 months of tea to travel from Kenya to Ghana. We have major infrastructure projects, the high-speed continental railway, the inter-African highways, Cape to Cairo, Tunis to Cape, Dakar to Djibouti, Dakar, Lagos, Mombasa, and so on and so forth. All these need to be developed. Energy is another factor. Energy is too expensive, but we can reduce the cost of energy and go green the continent.
Thank you so much, Excellency. Candidate from Kenya, et à présent, mesdames et messieurs.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, the response from His Excellency, the candidate from Djibouti. When you talk about the riches of Africa, we often think about natural resources, and the riches of Africa begins with its people. We have 1.4 billion inhabitants on the continent, and more than 60% of this population is young, between 0 and 25 years. The first wealth of this continent is in its people. We must have the capacity to think about how we can ensure that these people, this population, can benefit not only from the existing wealth, but also add value to that wealth. How can we go about that? Through universal education, quality education in our countries. We should have the capacity of offering our citizens a free education from the primary to the university levels, and ensure that this education is spread in all over the regions of our continent and of our country. We must remove the obstacles to education. The feminine population represents 50.2%. There are still cultural obstacles. There are obstacles to the education of girls. We must concentrate on valorizing our human resources. And then we have fertile land. What are we doing with this fertile land? We are still in many countries using very archaic agriculture. It is time to begin to develop an agriculture that I would call modern. It does exist in many countries. Look, for example, at a country such as Rwanda. Tea and coffee are actually, there's value added locally. Countries such as Ghana, countries such as Cote d'Ivoire, cocoa is transformed locally. Now, these raw products that we sell without adding value, we must be able to add value locally so that we can increase the wealth and also create employment. The transformation of agricultural products is a priority. So today, agriculture in many countries uses biotechnology. It uses the drip system. It uses seeds that are modified, that are quality seeds. Ethiopia uses quality seeds in order to be able to produce maize. Today, Ethiopia produces maize and wheat because of these seeds that are quality seeds. It is important to think about transforming agricultural product in place that will ensure that the people can get out of food insecurity, ensure that there is a specialized agriculture. There has to be areas of specialized agriculture, and that, I would say, is one of the steps that will lead to ensuring that this wealth can be at the benefit of the population. And then we come to natural resources. I acknowledge the work by President Museveni. He has said that he will not export petrol or gas as long as there will not be a refinery in Uganda. These are the examples from African leaders who take the destiny of their people in hand so that they can actually have value added locally. Now, trade, everybody knows that it is through trade that development happens. Look at China. China and all over the Chinese economy really targets production and exportation. When you add value to our products, we can become exporters. Let me talk about tariff barriers and non-tariff barriers. That is not the problem. I think that the situation must be to, first of all, protect our wealth by transforming them locally. Thank you. Thank you, Your Excellency Mahmoud Ali Yusuf.
Of round one, where I'm happy to announce we have a 5-minute break, and after this break we come to round two. You have been tuned in to us here from the African Union headquarters here in Addis Ababa, and we are bringing to you in Jadala Africa Leadership Debate 2024 with our 3 esteemed candidates vying for the position of chairperson of the African Union.
Merci infiniment, cher candidat.
Thank you very much, candidates, for having answered to the first question of the first round. Ladies and gentlemen, there's still 3 rounds to go in which you will all participate, and we're going to take a break of 5 minutes. We'll come back immediately after. Thank you very much for having listened to us. Thank you.
We disagree to agree. I think you are very wrong when you say everybody has WhatsApp.
A lot of people.
Oh, a lot of people. And the future voters, in another 10 years.
No.
In another 10 years, even 5 years.
And I'm saying so because I have numbers.
Guy, have you gone mad?
Until I had to ask somebody, what is Mubuka? And I'm told it's Mira.
No. On this show, we say it in black and white.
We know very well how the vaccines are very helpful to our children. Actually, they save lives.
For us, we go on. Yes, we're going to talk about you, mistresses, side chicks, all those other names that you're called. We're going to call them out. We're going to keep it real. Let's be real. Sunday at 10 p.m. See you then.